Hello and welcome to a new podcast series with Leon John Russell, Luigi and Stephen Dean discussing from A Course in Miracles, the Manual for Teachers, and cross-referencing with the spiritual classic by Nisargadatta Maharaj, I Am That. Enjoy. Gentlemen, nice to see you both. How are we?
I'm fine, my friends, and it's great to see you two again as well. As always.
Hello, gents.
Looking forward to this.
Good. Nice to see you both. So we've gotten ourselves onto section 8 of the Manual for Teachers from A Course in Miracles, which is just one way to remember the truth of non-duality, but it's our preferred way. And we're special, so it must be special and better than the other ones.
Of course.
And we've got how can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? And prior to pressing record, we summed it up very simply by saying just ignore it.
Well, that's the simplest way, but it doesn't make for a very long show.
Bypass the entire thing.
Yeah.
That should get the bypass, crew really upset.
Just ignore it. Just ignore it.
Well, the answer's in the last word. Avoid it completely.
As one. It's all one anyway. Just
Doesn't exist.
perceive it that way.
Just avoid the whole thing. Go back to sleep.
I was having a lovely time asleep before that book bloody landed in my life.
Oh, come on. I don't know. My life asleep was all right, but now it's a lot better being awake. Or as awake as I can manage so far, can I correct? Yeah.
You'll become fully enlightened like me one day, don't worry. I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're very humble though.
I consider myself nearly there.
The fully enlightened, we're very humble. We don't like to.
Yeah, well, I think about how, like it says in the book, like to find out how much you progress. You think about how you were 6 months or so before, or a year before, and make the comparisons yourself. It's the only way you're going to tell. And when I think about what I was like 10 years ago compared to now, the difference is vast. You know, I used to be an angry bloke. I used to get angry, not with people, but angry with what was going on in the world. But this has made me realise that it was just nothing anyway. It's the best thing that ever happened to me, actually. Spiritual wise.
Nice. So let's have a look. How can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? The belief in order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. It rests on differences, on uneven background and shifting foreground, on unequal heights and diverse sizes, on varying degrees of darkness and light, and thousands of contrasts in which each thing seen competes with every other in order to be recognized. A larger object overshadows a smaller one. A brighter,
Thing.
Yeah, I've lost my screen. That'll teach me. That'll teach me for saying I was fully enlightened. A larger object overshadows a smaller one. A brighter thing draws the attention from another with less intensity of appeal. And a more threatening idea, or one conceived of as more desirable by the world's standards, completely upsets the mental balance. What the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Look not to them for peace and understanding. Illusions are always illusions of differences. How could it be otherwise? By definition, an illusion is an attempt to make something real that is regarded as of major importance. but is recognized as being untrue. The mind therefore seeks to make it true out of its intensity of desire to have it for itself. Illusions are travesties of creation, attempts to bring truth to lies. Finding truth unacceptable, the mind revolts against truth and gives itself an illusion of victory. Finding health a burden, it retreats into feverish dreams. And in these dreams, the mind is separate, different from other minds, with different interests of its own, and able to gratify its needs at the expense of others. Where do all these differences come from? Certainly they seem to be in the world outside, yet it is surely the mind that judges what the eyes behold. It's the mind that interprets the eye's messages and gives them meaning. And this meaning does not exist in the world outside at all. What is seen as reality is simply what the mind prefers. Its hierarchy of values is projected outward, and it sends the body's eyes to find it. The body's eyes will never see except through differences. Yet, it is not the messages they bring on which perception rests. Only the mind evaluates their messages, and so only the mind is responsible for seeing. It alone decides whether what is seen is real or illusory, desirable or undesirable, pleasurable or painful. It's in the sorting out and categorizing activities of the mind that errors in perception enter. And it's here correction must be made. The mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values, judging where each sense datum fits best. What basis could be faultier than this? Unrecognized by itself, it has asked to be given what will fit into these categories. And having done so, it concludes that the categories must be true. On this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this that judgments of the world depend. Can this confused and senseless reasoning be depended on for anything? There can be no order of difficulty in healing merely because all sickness is illusion. Is it harder to dispel the belief of the insane in a larger hallucination as opposed to a smaller one? Will he agree more quickly to the unreality of a louder voice he hears than to that of a softer one? Will he dismiss more easily a whispered demand to kill than a shout? And do the number of pitchforks the devils he sees carrying affect their credibility in his perception? His mind has categorized them all as real, and so they are all real to him. When he realizes they're all illusions, they will disappear. And so it is with healing. The properties of illusions which seem to make them different are really irrelevant, for their properties are as illusory as they are. The body's eyes will continue to see differences, but the mind that has let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge them. There will be those who seem to be sicker than others, and the body's eyes will report their changed appearances as before, but the healed mind will put them all in one category. They are unreal. This is the gift of its teacher, the understanding that only two categories are meaningful in sorting out the messages the mind receives from what appears to be the outside world. And of these two, but one is real. Just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and place, for differences cannot exist within it, so too are illusions without distinctions. The one answer to sickness of any kind is healing. The one answer to all illusions is truth.
You see this bit, that part there, the body's eyes will continue to see differences,
Hmm.
but the mind that's let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge this. Now, your mind, like when you're dreaming at night, you see, don't you? You know, I had funny enough, not that long ago, I had an ultra lucid dream, which was as real as this is now to me. I was actually in another dimension, and I was walking about believing that I was actually in another world because I didn't even know I was dreaming. And it wasn't till I was looking at houses for some reason, I realized the houses kept changing into different houses. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I thought, wait a minute, I must be dreaming. I have to be dreaming. Because this just doesn't happen, stuff like this. It was that real. It was incredible, you know, and it was unbelievable. But and then I woke up in bed and I thought, what the? It was, I'm not one to have, I dream a lot, but I don't have really lucid dreams. But that was, the whole thing was just like I was in another world. It was incredible. And my mind, and the whole thing was happening in my mind. You know, I've often used an analogy to describe this, like if you dream at night, just say you're dreaming of some people sitting on a beach with a cat and a dog, right? The cat and the dog and all the grains of sand are all made out of the same dream stuff as the people. So really, everything here is all equal. All it is what we think it is. You know, and that stuff about, it says about like big, you know, it's all about dimensions. I mean, in this world, the bigger it is, the better it's generally judged to be in most cases. You know, it's like in dating sites where the girls say, I prefer a tall bloke. Yeah, this sort of thing. The guy must be tall. They prefer tall blokes, you know, not all of them, obviously, but there's differences made. You know, it's like, and the more amount money a people got, the bigger their bank account, the better the world presumes them to be. But really, it's just as the course says, money is just like a paper strips, little metal coins, little bits of metal, and rows of noughts on a computer screen. What you think about it is entirely up to you, isn't it? I mean, really, it's just all dream stuff, really, and like perception of it all. The perception, as it says, how can perception be, or all the difficulties be avoided? By simply, well, it's simply nothing simple about this, but by realizing that you are dreaming. After that dream I had the other week, I mean, it's easier to see this as well, I say easy, but I can see it as the same as I saw that dream. It's almost like I could suddenly wake up now and realize back in bed and think, wait a minute, I was dreaming I was doing the show. It was that real. You know, so the eyes of my mind, the eyes of my mind can see truth. So if I can get that to work all the time, then I will see truth all the time. Just realizing it is the key. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that analogy, the dream state, because every character in the dream, projected thought form, is in actual fact a walking, talking set of eyes, whereby the mind looks upon the contents of its own illusory dream, and it's been projected out. Then the mind is fractured into 8 billion fractures. Let's use planet Earth as an example. 8 billion sets of eyes, most of them work. And then it then brings back the messages of which it's projected, therefore reaffirming that what it's projected out is true. And the beauty of this one is that what the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Look not to them for peace and understanding. So our five senses are actually nonsensical because they are just bearing witness to our projected out delusion about ourself. This section again is addressing all of us at our dreaming mind level, asking us to awaken to our absolute reality. And it's trying to point out to us that the minute there's no peace within it, it's because we've bought into the false idea of what we are. And the way we reinforce that false idea is through contrasts, where it's a nature we compete because of this belief in scarcity. And so contrasts, which is literally another word, contrast, judgment. So we're constantly judging the contrasts. There's various unequal heights, diverse sizes, varying degrees of light and darkness. Thousands of contrasts in which everything seen competes with every other. Scarcity, the belief in scarcity. So it's addressing us at our dreaming mind, and it's literally a call to awaken, saying, awaken to self, Holy Son of God. Realize you but dream. There's one mind which in the dream has seemed to fracture, and therefore there seems to be 8 billion minds on planet Earth. We have one shared mind, and we are but eyes or devices through which our dreaming mind looks upon the projected content of its imagined dream. The minute you recognize you are but a set of eyes through which the mind sees, you no longer believe your eyes, you no longer believe your ears, touch, feel, sense, all of that just goes out the window. And you just literally avoid the perception. Now, be careful in this case not to bypass what you came here to recognize, and you came here to recognize our one shared indivisible self. We are one shared being. The very core essence of us is unconditional love, and we share that being with everything and everyone in the entire universe. I'm actually paraphrasing Rupert Spira. It's one of his greatest lines is we have one shared being, and that being, the essence of that being is pure love, and we share that being with everything and everyone in the universe. The minute you recognize that shared being, how can you judge? How can you believe any of your judgmental perceptual errors? How can you believe anything your eyes see or anything your ears hear or taste? It's all designed to keep your attention away from your true absolute reality, the reality we share with God as the one indivisible holy Son of God. And illusions are always of differences. So if there's a difference and there's a rank ordering and there's a judgment and there's a comparison, believe not those thoughts that stream through your awareness. Believe not what you view, believe not what you see on the telly or in the world outside you. Return to the core self, return to the silent stillness within, and therein abide. And when that stillness within, that silent stillness within, there is no judgment, because the seeing will still continue, the hearing will still continue, you just no longer believe it. And when you've really given the device to the memory for God, the willingness to remember, the Holy Spirit within, what you see, hear, feel, touch, think of will be transformed into echoes of reality. And you will then start to remember the essential nature of our shared Christ self. And the minute that happens, it's the reflection of a happy dream of the Holy Son of God. All the mirrors reflect back the joyous holiness within. And the dream still continues. You still go and chop wood, fetch water, feed the kittens, but you no longer take any of it seriously. And remember, the attack thoughts, the ego broadcasts isn't going to stop, but it's no longer going to trigger you. And you have a tool that the Holy Spirit's given us, and that is forgive, forgive, forgive. And that's the key. Forgiveness is the key. Gratitude is the accelerant, and the medium in which all of it happens is your true essential nature, God's nature, which is what? The shared nature of the self, the Christ self. Non-judgment, unconditional love. This is the one section that really brings us straight out of the duality into the recognition, one shared self.
Well, once you grasp oneness, you realize there can't be any judgment to judge anything anyway.
Yeah.
Because if there's only one, which is not a thing as we know, it's a oneness. It's not an item, or it's a oneness. Well, something that is one, how can it judge? Because you've got to judge something against something.
Yeah.
You know, if there's just one, if God is oneness, which he is, then he can't judge because there's nothing to judge anything against. Judgment is of this world where we've got, because once we leave oneness, we get the consciousness, because you don't need consciousness in oneness because there's nothing to be conscious of. But once you come out of it and into a place with consciousness where you've got to be conscious of things, that's where all this mess starts. And trying to regain the oneness where you come from is very difficult. It's very difficult not to believe the evidence of your eyes and your senses. That's like when I first started doing the course and reading about it and other people's experience of it. Oh, it took me 15 years to get it, 20 years to get it, 40 years to get it. I never got it, and this, that. And at the beginning, I thought, well, it don't take me that long. But here I am 15 years later thinking, well, it's what you're trying to do isn't that easy. You can't just read "It's a Dream." I mean, really, that's what a course is like. It is. It's just saying the same thing over and over again, so it repetitiously sinks in your head what it's saying. Otherwise, it's just be a pamphlet saying life's a dream, or you're dreaming. You know, and who's going to believe that? Here's a Course of Miracles. It's a pamphlet. You're dreaming, right? I'm dreaming. That ain't gonna work. You know, you have to train your mind to understand it. And even your mind isn't part of it, even your mind isn't part of reality. The awareness is what you are. It's like your brain projects the illusion. Your mind decides what's going on in it for you, and the awareness behind it just watches the movie. And what you got to, and what you got to get in touch with is with you watching the movie.
Yes.
You know, because
That's one of
that's
the
what.
brilliant things about this bit here, though, is because it brings light to that sequence by showing us the sequence we believe is happening in terms of, like, if we just lift out, say, the mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values, judging where each sense datum fits best. What basis could be faultier than this? And then when we go back here and it says, what the body's eyes behold is only conflict, the mind therefore seeks to make it true out of its intensity of desire to have it for itself.
Yes.
So this little feedback loop where receiving value has been handed over to the body's eyes, the body's only reporting back all of these differences, so the mind can then try and make true for itself the validation of all of these witnesses based on what it's leaning towards with its own intensity. So it's actually just like a scratched record that just is jumping and jumping and jumping, and it can't move in the groove because it's stuck in
Yeah,
the illusion of itself, kind of thing.
yeah, I'll get it. Yeah. Another things like the illusion of size, like the mind is even the mind is considered to have a size. Our cat has got a mind, right? I mean, but you can't think her mind's any worse than mine. Her mind is the mind that suits a cat. But her mind, in some ways, I think, I'm not say superior, but it's actually kind of preferable in some way. It can sit there. She can sit there for ages looking out the window, thinking about nothing in particular. Cats are totally zen. Their mind, and you can't say that their mind is different to mine. You know, they like if I try she's very much an indoor cat. But occasionally she goes out, and when she does fraternizes with other cats, she comes back with some fleas sometimes. When we see her scratching, you have to put that stuff on the back of her neck to get rid of it. She doesn't like me doing that. It's not like she loves the fleas, but she knows she don't understand I'm trying to help her to squirt this on the back of her neck. So she tries, when she sees me get it, she runs away. So I have to be very sneaky, right? But even then, that's not been very good because somehow, as soon as I think about doing it, she looks at me like, "Hey," she somehow picks up what I'm thinking about. I mean, so their mind can't be discounted as lesser than ours. They just have a different mind, but their mind, like the ancient Egyptians, worshipped them because they believed they could see spirits, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with, and also like insects, like it's trying to assume that because insects are diddy, they don't. Their mind must be lesser than ours. Well, why should it be? Mind isn't something that has a size. I told you, I don't know if I told you the story about the wasps. Like, I'll tell it again quickly. I might have done already. Like, we used to sit outside in the alcove by the side of the house, and my wife sits on one chair and I sit on the other. Some paper wasps started building a nest above her head. Well, it made her very uncomfortable. So she said, "Can you take that wasp nest down? You know, I don't like them up there." Then she went in, and I thought, well, they're just wasps making a nest. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, Louis, like, you're messing about. Take that nest and build it somewhere else. Do me a favour, Will. You're upsetting my wife. Anyway, the next day they abandoned it and started building it over my head, right? So I thought, wait a minute.
Not
Okay,
having that, put it back
yeah,
over.
this is very weird. Now, there's something prior to this I should have said. Like, I've got about 5 bird baths in the yard, and occasionally you get these paper wasps trying to walk on water. Now, like what they're doing, because they're so light, they can walk on the water's surface, but occasionally they slip up and fall through. And once they fall through, they can't get out. They're bogged down. But if I see one, I'll put a leaf under them, lift them out, and rescue them. This is key. When the summer went on, as the seasons went on, it gets too hot to sit round the side, so I move round the back. And then the wasp started building one round the back over my head there. And they come down, slide down and look at me and fly back up again. What's going on? These wasps seem to like me. Why are they so interested in looking at me? So I looked on the internet, Googling paper wasps. What is the behaviour of paper wasps? And an expert said they're very, very intelligent creatures and they're capable of remembering somebody who's doing wrong. If somebody does upsets them, they will not forget. So I thought, well, if somebody upsets them, they don't forget. What about somebody who rescues them from bird baths? Surely they can't forget that either. And that would explain why they're so friendly towards me. Well, there's that bloke who rescued me and my mates from the bird bath. There must be some explanation for it. It's the only one I can think of.
Love to love. Do you remember when you dream at night? Let's say you dream of the dream that you're just speaking about, you and the wasps.
Yeah.
Everything in your dream, as you mentioned earlier, including the sand, the grass, the swimming pool, the water, the ceiling, your wife, is made from the same substance that exists in your one dreaming mind. So do the characters in your dreaming mind have separate minds? No. They're fractal projections of one dreaming mind. And so when one fractal projection of your dreaming mind offers love to the creatures in its dream, it's let go of judgment. It's looking upon everything as a part of itself. And so as it offers love, those fractured parts of itself reflect love back at you. And that's why people, that the belief in karma is so easily acceptable, because you do cruel things and cruel things happen to you, and you do good deeds and good deeds seem to happen to you, and you think it's some karmic circle. There's no circle there. There's no loop. It's the direct extension of love reflected back at you. It's just reflections of the one mind when it's willing to not see differences and know itself as all of it. All of it will reflect its true loving self back at it. When it chooses to see separation and division, it's going to experience. So as it says in the third paragraph, the body's eyes will never see except through differences. So the dreaming mind is looking at the contents of its dream through millions of different angles. So it's never going to see the same thing in the same way. It's like, that story of the monks surrounding an elephant, and each one is really close up, and they're trying to describe the elephant. And to the one, he's got the trunk, and it feels like a big pipe, and the other one's got the tail, and it feels like a snake, and this one's looking at that, just looks like a piece of leather. So each one is seeing the same wholeness from a fractured projection. Yet it is not the messages they bring on which perception rests. Perception rests on the outward projection. Only the mind evaluates their messages, because there's the loop. And so only the mind is responsible for seeing. So we're not actually seeing with our eyes. The characters in our dream at night, although they appear to see scenery, people, places, things, and events in our dream, that it's actually not the character's eyes that see. It's the mind which dreams that seems to see through the characters. And so when, as Ken Wapnick used to say, that little blue circle dot of his in the splitting up of the dream dialogue, return to the decision maker. And when you return to the decision maker, you recognize yourself as the mind that dreams and now chooses to see anew. But since it cannot see anew, since it's forgotten what it is, it asks for help. And that's the most important question we ever ask is, Holy Spirit, memory for God, core essence of what I am, show me another way to see this. And that show me another way to see it really means show me another way to know myself, to remember my true shared one indivisible self. With all these appearances that I have projected outwards, it's still one shared self. It's still happening in my mind. Now, if I can awaken to right-mindedness, Christ-mindedness, I can see right. I can see right. And what am I going to see? Well, we can't imagine what we're going to see because we're not using imagination. The closest we get to is when we abide in silent stillness, and that's a deep sense of knowing. It's a present moment awareness, the knowing of knowing, the knowing of being. It alone decides whether what is seen is real or illusory, desirable or undesirable, pleasurable, and it's always in comparison. And that's why the joyous lightness of being is just, first of all, an overwhelming sense of presence, of peace, awareness of awareness. And when that peace is then extended and shared wholeheartedly, expecting nothing in return, what does return to us is the joyous lightness of being. It's an all-encompassing joy. Why? Because the very core essence of self, shared self with God, is joy. And and that's why people avoid it, because what are we going to talk about next week?
Mm.
So we get together. Hey, Leon. Hey, Steve. How's your week? Great.
Fantastic.
Full stop.
Couldn't be better.
No stories. Just fantastic. Good to see you.
Yeah.
What should we talk about? No thing.
Talk about how great everything is.
Yeah. We would be bored within 2 minutes because tell me about how you got stung. I mean, your story of this, the wasp was wonderful, but it would be so much more fun if they stung the bejesus out of you. And you had to go to a hospital
not for
and
me.
needed special injections and treatment, and then you got a big fire extinguisher and lit the whole thing up and went and burnt the wasps and then took a machine gun and a hand grenade and dressed as Rambo and sliced them up. And we want that. Oh, that's really exciting. Tell us more, Steve. Tell us more.
I was bored when it didn't go to that place. I was like, oh, this is a bit boring, isn't it? All this love business.
Well,
he's saving wasps. I mean, he should have drowned each little bugger, each one at a time, and made a recording and revived them and drowned them again. We don't want happy news.
I've got a soft spot for little wasps. I haven't got a soft spot for little creatures. I have. I'm bored with that.
Well, how can you not have, when you are knowing the love you are, there's the soft spot, the gentle, joyous opening to all of your false projections now become a joyous accepting of the Christ within, because everything is now made from the same essential nature, the same essential fabric as the essence of love. And how can you not love everything? It just be everything. The wasp is just a loving reflection back at you of the essence of what you are. You can't help it. It's impossible. You can't stay angry anymore at anything, no matter what it appears, no matter what it says, what a belief it has. You may find yourself temporarily getting, if you now see someone go out and start killing wasps, it may trigger you for a second, but the minute you come back to true loving reason, it no longer affects you. It no longer triggers you. And you won't go and be, vengeful and trying to now save wasps at the cost of someone's life. You may say something, you'll say it as kindly as you can, try and give them a different perspective, but it's no longer going to trigger you. I can only speak how life has changed for me that way. And it's such a beautiful way to start to see when you realize I but dream a dream that never happened in my absolute reality with the Lord God of my being.
Well, nothing ever happens really, does it, beyond the now? Once it moves into the past, it's gone, except in your memory. And once it's in your memory, it's down to you what you do with the memory. If you think it's a bad thing, you're gonna sort of like get angry or whatever. You think it's a good thing, but that's your choice. That's your free will, isn't it? But actually, nothing's happened. Once it moves into the past, which is instant, really, it's just a dream. It's just, I mean, when you think about your memories, they appear in your mind the same way as dreams do. There's just pictures in your mind and thoughts in your mind. The only reality is this instant, this instant, this instant. So, it's really to grasp that. That's why it's so ridiculous to hold grudges, because there's just what you're holding a grudge against is long past and can be found nowhere except in your mind. The whole idea of meditation is to clear all that crap out and sort of like just sit there, get to that oneness, that stillness. Like you said earlier, stillness is the key, because this world's constantly in motion. I mean, even inside atoms, the electrons are whizzing around the neutron or whatever, aren't they? Like, nothing stays still. I don't know what the quarks are doing inside them. They're supposed to be so small, but I don't know if they're moving about. I presume so. But it's all about motion, and it's being this existence being the exact opposite of wholeness or oneness. motion. It's the opposite of stillness, so it's continual motion all the time.
Well, I reckon off the back of what you both just said, the body's eyes will continue to see differences, but the mind that has let itself be healed will no
Yes.
longer acknowledge them.
That's it.
Yeah. It's the grasping of that. And learning to love and learning to drop your grudges and learning to love things. Because back in the day, like 15 years ago, I was very angry at the world, at what was going. It's still going on in the world now, even worse, actually. But at the time, I used to let myself get really angry about it. And I was getting angry about people that I don't even know, I can't do anything about, and I realized that they don't even know me. They got no idea I'm sitting there angry about them. It doesn't affect these people. I don't even know who they are. So I dropped all that. Over took me time. It took me a while, but eventually I just scrubbed them. They're just something in my mind. And the whole world is geared towards making you feel negative anyway. Obviously, being the opposite of love, it prefers to try and make you feel negative. Like back in the day when I was a kid, the church is presented as being kind of boring. God's sitting on a cloud up in the sky, surrounded by angelic hosts with harps. Whereas the devil's he's got the best music and he's got horns and he's got a fork and he's got these weird looking demons floating around with him. It all seems more attractive in a weird way.
Still does
like
to me.
Well, what? Yeah, but you get what I mean. This is what it says there, like, and how many devils with pitchforks do you see? That
Yeah.
alludes to that.
Yeah,
The number of pitchforks the devil he sees carrying
Yeah.
carrying affect their credibility in his perception.
Yeah. If he's got loads of pitchforks, does it make him more real than if he's got one pitchfork? Why is he carrying a pitchfork anyway?
He
So
used
this
to be a
whole
farmer in his previous life.
This whole section just basically gives us a load of really clear examples of like how the projection of this misperception can find multiple witnesses for differences and contrasts, which is all a manifestation of judgment. And then it shows us that really all of that activity will still continue, but because you have returned your understanding to the awareness of the oneness behind the appearance of all of the differences, then the healed mind will put them all in one category. They're all unreal. So all of those differences are just simply unreal. So then when we look at the title, how can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? It's interesting to use the word avoided, because if you avoid it, does that mean you're trying to not recognize it?
No. Doesn't mean that.
Mm-hmm. But
You have to acknowledge your own perceptual error. You've got to bring it to the surface, into the light of awareness, where it can be looked upon and seen as unreal, then forgiven and released.
Yeah.
It's not a denial. It's not a bypassing. It's a recognition. I've done this to myself. Look upon it, see its unreality. See, I've done this. This is of my own making. Forgive yourself for this making, and then the release happens. This is the gift of its teacher, the understanding only two categories are meaningful in sorting out the messages the mind receives from what appears to be the outside world, appears to be. And of these two, but one is real. Just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and place, for its differences cannot exist within it. So too are illusions without distractions. It's seeing it, recognizing it. I've done this. I forgive myself for dreaming, because you're only forgiving self for dreaming. And then recognizing no more. And now, when it tries to, this is the important part, and this is why people sometimes say, but Liz, you're bypassing. Yes, I am. Stage 2. Stage 1 is bring it to the surface, forgive it, release it. Now it's going to keep chattering, but you've heard the broken record over and over again. You don't need to listen to it again. You've already recognized I'm doing this to myself. And when it tries to tempt you back into the believing of illusions, no thanks. That wonderful story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where the devil tries to tempt him. The devil, thoughts attack thoughts, and he says, no thanks, get behind me, Satan. I've seen you for the illusion you are. I recognize this is no longer real. I take full responsibility. This is my dream. I've projected outwards. Projection makes perception, and then its witnesses come back to reinforce it. I now recognize my delusion. I recognize I but dream. No thanks. Now it's the no thanks. But you first have to face it, bring it to the light.
Yeah.
It's a very important step.
So
And sorry,
also,
if I can add one more thing,
yeah,
teachers for God.
yeah,
The body's eyes will continue to see differences, but the mind that has let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge them. Um, but the healed mind will put them in one category. They are unreal. Now be careful that you now don't go out into the world and you're sitting at the dinner party, and no matter what someone is struggling, what experience someone is going through, depression, sadness, guilt, sickness, ill, oh, it's just an illusion.
mm,
Don't be that arrogant, ignorant parrot. Compassion, rather say nothing and demonstrate that it has no effect on you other than you choose to offer love to all your fractured selves.
yeah.
Because there's
yeah,
nothing more annoying than a non-dualist, okay? And everything's unreal, as I say, and then, oh, but please pass the salt. Oh, so the salt is
yeah.
real, but everything else is an illusion.
But if we go right back to what you said at the beginning, like
Brilliant.
it's the word avoided. I
Hmm.
think a good clue is in the word itself, because if avoid is like something's null and void, it's of no use,
Yeah.
it's finished, it doesn't exist. Avoided is the same kind of saying, if you're asleep, you're asleep. If it's avoided, it's voided. It is of no
Mhm.
consequence. It's of no use.
Yeah.
You have just void it. It's not real, you know. But as you've
It's
just said, like it's
interesting
not.
because, like you're saying, avoided, it's like to be careful of the definition of the word avoided, because it's like, to not get stuck in that little loop is to look
Mm.
at it clearly, and then even the notion of avoiding it changes, because you're not trying to like bury it under the carpet, hide it in the cupboard. You've looked at it, you've seen
Yeah.
the unreality of a order of difficulty in perception, and then the avoidance itself is actually a byproduct. It's not even that. It's like the byproduct of that looking is that you see clearly that it's an illusion. It's a loop
by,
to
de-
get
yeah,
stuck
by
in,
declaring the rest null and void.
null and void.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's null and void. It's of no consequence. It's just nothing.
So when
But
you sit in the cinema,
avoid it tends to sum up like getting out of the way of
yeah,
something, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But it
it's
doesn't,
like
it's a
detachment.
deeper meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in the cinema house and you've now recognized, hang a second, I'm that actor on the screen.
Mm.
I've played out that story. I then had amnesia. I've forgotten I played out that character. I recognize myself. I don't remember how the story plays. I now no longer need to avoid watching the movie till the end. It's okay. I just no longer take it seriously. So once you recognize your perceptual and projected error, you no longer have to avoid it. As I said, the
Yeah.
dreaming mind is going to continue to stream out the play, the attack thoughts, the unreal thoughts, the judgmental thoughts, the whatever thoughts. You just no longer take it seriously. You don't, if the minute you try and avoid it or detach from, how can you detach from yourself or avoid your dreaming mind's content since you're still dreaming? It's the recognition that what I perceive through my perceptual filters is misperceived. I am the awareness in which all of it appears and disappears until all that's left is the awareness, the lightness of being, Christ mind, the
Mm.
extension of God's love. So, how do you avoid it? You no longer avoid it, but you first have to have seen it, forgiven it, and then offer gratitude that the memory for God within, the present moment awareness, memory for God, has now revealed the essence of what we are. And now, like I say, you now carry on, chop wood, fetch water, feed the kittens, and nothing triggers you anymore. And if it does catch you and triggers you, you're so quick to forgive because you realize the unreality. Okay, I got trapped. I forgive. I release. I'm grateful.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard that chop wood, fetch water, and well, feed the kittens. I've heard that. I've heard the full story, isn't it? Like there's some guy sees a monk and asked him if he's enlightened. He says, "Yes, I'm enlightened." And he said, "What was you like? What did you do before you was enlightened?" Well, I fetch wood and I chop wood, fetch water and cooked. And he said, what did you do after you become enlightened? He said, well, I fetched water, chop wood and cooked. He said, what was the difference? He said, when I chop wood now, I just chop wood. When I fetch water, I just chop water. I just fetch water. When I cook, I just cook. When I was fetching wood before, I was thinking about chopping wood. When I was chopping wood, I was thinking about cooking. When I was cooking, I was thinking about fetching water. And that's true, that is.
Of course.
It's so easy you can sort of like grasp the meaning of that easy, that one. That's really good. That's an analogy, if you like, but that's a good way of grasping it.
Very powerful.
Because like when you're like someone, when you've got a boring job, you spend the day wishing you were somewhere else, unless you knuckle down and just do it regardless.
Yes.
But
So, and the last line, Stephen, the last line in the final paragraph, the body's eyes, ears, blah blah blah, will continue to see, hear, blah blah differences or the appearance of differences. But the mind, our shared mind, that has let itself, here's the important, it's let itself be healed. You can't heal yourself. You let the memory for God bring you to the present moment awareness. That's healing. The mind that has let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge the differences, no longer acknowledge the illusions. There will be those who seem to be sicker than others, and the body's eyes will report their changed appearances as before. But the healed mind will put them all in one category. They're unreal. It's not that they're not true, it's just my perceptual filters are blocking the awareness of the light we all are. That's such a vital turning point in recognition. That's the true remembrance.
Yeah.
Don't try and stop your thoughts. Don't try and don't try and stop. Just recognize their unreality.
Yeah, like I like to quote Keith Kavanagh when he says it's the ego that resists the ego. Don't get caught in that little loop.
The ego that resists the ego.
Yeah, it's the ego that resists the ego. It's a really great little...
Only the ego tries to get rid of the ego.
Right.
And it's that wonderful teaching by Ramana Maharaj that said the policeman dressed as a thief. The thief dressed as a policeman looking for the thief, sorry. You know, well, unless you're in South Africa,
yeah,
which...
that's a good one. The thief dressed as a policeman looking for the thief. Yeah, I get it. It's a good one.
You know, the murderer that attends the funeral of the person he murdered and hugs the family and tells them how terrible the crime is.
Yeah.
And this is what we do to ourselves. We've projected ourselves out, the three of us on the screen, and anyone watching us right now, one shared self, one mind, looking upon the contents of its own dream, not realizing that something has changed, and that is that the vessels, the sets of eyes that it projected out in order to believe its made-up dream were handed over to an unseen force the dreaming mind is unaware of. And that unseen force is the holy memory, the Holy Spirit, the memory for God. And because the devices no longer wanted to see the ugliness of what the dreaming mind had made, and they were willing to be shown, the Holy Spirit took those sets of eyes and started wiping away the dirty tears, the dirty filters. And now with a blank, clear filter, unfiltered, true vision, the eyes that appeared to see illusions now start to be present in knowing. The seeing's irrelevant. It's the presence that's important, the knowing. And do you need to explain it or teach anyone or try and validate it or defend it? No, there's a sense of knowing. And now any need to prove, compete, compare, convert, it's all gone. It's just you show up and you pour yourself in as lovingly as you can. And when all else fails, you move to little falls and you become a recluse and you get a whole lot of cats and you avoid the world.
Well, I watched a little video about meditation the other day by a guy called Ben Smith, and he said these are the 5 things that happen to you as you approach awakening. It's one, like, you don't feel any need to hang around with friends anymore or anything like that. You become sort of like just you become a much more singular person. You've actually become, you don't need to hang around with people, or you don't need to. You just stop doing that. It's one of the things. That's like me. I've always been. I mean, I travel around the world. I was always busy doing something or other. I used to be an actor. I used to play in bands. I've written books. I was just non-stop doing stuff. But these recent years, I just be happy, just content to do what I do, this sort of thing, and post a video every day and reflect on what I do and read books and just be myself.
Mm.
Just be myself. And that's another way I've changed over the last 15 years. I was always I had to do something every day to make the day worthwhile in some way. Now it's just, as long as I feel content and happy, that's my day. Good.
Yeah.
That's very important, contentment and happiness.
Mhm.
You know, I
So
don't feel the need.
this bit here I want to look at, just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and place, for differences cannot exist within it. So too are illusions without distinctions. That's really interesting, just to have that pointed out, that illusions don't have distinctions as well.
Sure.
The properties of illusions which seem to make them different are really irrelevant, for their properties are as illusory as they are.
And that's again the analogy of the cinema. So you're watching a big screen and there's a fire on the screen. If you touch the screen, your hand doesn't burn. If there's a water splash, your hand doesn't get wet. So whether it appears as a fire or appears as water, or it appears as a person or a cat or a dog or whatever, if you touch the screen, it's made from screen.
It's just,
You're
there's nothing at all
scratching the
behind it.
screen, it's all the screen. Even though there seems to be fractured appearances, the properties of it is the same. And you're not actually seeing the screen, you're seeing the appearance on the screen.
Yeah.
Seeing the projection is the illusion. The screen is the substrate in which it all appears, consciousness. And yet behind that consciousness is pure awareness. Once the movie ends, the Son of God awakens to himself. Do you still need the substrata, the screen? No. All that's required is itself, awareness, love, the eternal flow of light. So even in the screen on which it appears, the universe, space-time matter, disappears into what? Into the eternity. What is eternity? This mind can't comprehend it. It just knows that eternity is a sense of stillness, a sense of peace, and a sense of ever expanding joyous love. That's the closest I get to that. If I was to say anything else, I'm just ruining it. I'm just going into more and more concessions, then I go straight back into the loop. Let it go.
Well, it's just
And
like,
sorry, last one, Steve, is
that's
the
all right.
crazy thing is, as I've refined it to this point where I'm really confident to share this with the sense of knowing, no, you don't want to share it anymore. You don't want to say anything anymore. It's like, that's just weird. Sorry, Steve, I
So I
interrupted
can
you.
understand. I get that. I do get that. So I
Brilliant.
say I've become very sort of like, I don't know if insular is the right word, but I'm very sort of like, I'm so happy to be alone with my wife. I'm just happy to be with her. I mean, I love talking to you two every week or whenever we do it, but that's, I'm happy to just be. Incidentally, looking around at the screen and stuff like that, it just occurred to me like, it's actually the third dimension of depth that we see is added by the brain. Apparently, the what they call the wave of endless possibilities. This is quantum physics, and we just pick up from it what we want to see in it. But the depth is added by the brain. Well, if you take away the depth, so really, then what you see would wrap around you like you stand inside a roller carpet or something, wouldn't it? Because without the depth, it would just shrink inside you.
Sure.
With no depth, it becomes nothing. You
Yeah.
see, the two dimensions.
Awareness has no dimensions.
Exactly. See, you can't see a two-dimensional world because you need depth to observe it.
Mm.
If you take away the depth, the world just goes into you. because it goes into its narrowest point. If it can ever be narrow, if you get what I mean, it can't be right just surround you because you're in the illusion yourself and you're three-dimensional. If you take away that third dimension of depth, then it just disappears altogether inside you, within the very center of you. Yeah, that just occurred to me, that did actually.
Yeah, so 0 point awareness is
Yeah,
smaller than the smallest whatever we know. So
yeah. And there's no sizes anything in reality. So it's just,
yeah,
that's why it's difficult to imagine heaven. Like I said earlier, like people imagine heaven is God sitting on a throne with angelic hosts playing harps. It's because it becomes a three-dimensional idea of what heaven is. And that's encouraged by the church. He's sitting on a throne in the clouds. The devil's down there running around with a pitchfork. Do you know what I mean? But it's all three-dimensional stuff, isn't it? The actual idea of the unseen wholeness, you know. It's not just like, also it says somewhere in the book, like, you would never figure this out without this book telling you what it is, because it's your senses so consistently tell you otherwise,
mm.
you know. But I always knew, same as you two, that there was some more. Ever since I was a kid, I somehow knew there was more to it than this. And I've always had this inner search for it, culminating in me being introduced to the course. When did you get introduced? When did you first come across the course, Lewis?
First time I came across the course was in the early 2000s, 2001, and I was researching for my second book. And I was doing a chapter on forgiveness, and someone had mentioned Course in Miracles is all about forgiveness, and I bought the book. And funny enough, as life is, I opened it on the chapter on forgiveness, and I read from it, and it was really a completely different way of looking at forgiveness. And I dedicated an entire chapter to, resharing the contents of A Course in Miracles. And then it just got too Jesus-y for me and too, Christian-y in its terms. And I really was recovering from being an avid Christianholic, I think it was called. And it was done with the church and done with religion as such, not done with God at all, not done with Christ, just done with dogma. And so I didn't want to hear about A Course in Miracles. And then in 2009, Disappearance of the Universe came across. Just in actual fact, magically ended up in my postbox. There was a story behind it, of course. Some friends dropped it off, came to visit. They thought I'd enjoy it. And the minute I started reading Renard's work, I recognized Course in Miracles that had been mentioned in many other books like Conversations with God and so forth. And when I finished reading the stories of the two adventurers, Arten and Persa, in the recognition nothing is real, that was it. I opened the course, and I bought it to read it over the year. And I was coaching back in those days. I was doing strategy and coaching, and I was taking on a big South African hotel group, all over Africa hotel group. And they had contracted me for an entire year, and somehow mistakenly, I'd sent them the annual invoice, and they paid me up front. And about a month later, a couple of weeks before I was meant to start the national coaching, I'd done my mystery tour of all the hotels. I'd gone and done a mystery shop, so I was ready for the real induction program to this group. They phoned me because their CEO had been fired, and my entire program got put on halt. So they phoned me to say, sorry, the program is no longer going on. And so sorry that we've paid you up front. Keep the money, but your services won't be needed. So I just earned an entire year's with a retainer, nothing else to do. So I sat down and opened the book. And, well, the rest is history, as they say.
So it
And
found you at
history,
a time when you had time to study it.
well, funny enough, it was the most bizarre holy instant that lasted 30 days. I
Well, it happened to me, like
consumed the
when I was in
entire text in
Australia
30
working on a
days.
farm. When I got that, I only worked in the mornings. I was woofing, as they say, like willing workers on organic farms. I was doing that, and I just worked the mornings 5 days a week. I spend the rest of the time walking around in the bush, reading the book. I'd read the book and then go and ponder on it, walking around in the bush. I had the time to do it. I had 4.5 years of pondering on it. fitting it all together. Like I remember on what bits that stood out to me, especially when it first part was realizing that it's saying I'm the same as Jesus, which I found difficult to swallow at first. And another one when it said, if you've got to recognize you've got no past, you've got to recognize that neither has anybody else. And that really struck me. Yeah, how can I say I've got no past and nobody, and then yet believe in somebody else's? So how can you hold anything against them if you know they don't have a past?
Mm.
That really struck me, that did, and I worked on that until I was able to absorb it. It's a major lesson in forgiveness, that.
What's so beautiful about A Course in Miracles, and I was an avid reader, I would read 5, 6, 7 books a month and have been since I was a kid. Um, After I read A Course in Miracles, I haven't read another book. Yet I've
I've
read
only
the
read,
book,
go
I've
on.
now read the book 15 times, cover to cover, you know. And every time I read it, it's like reading a new book. That's the beauty of this book, is that it just takes you through, illusionary layers up the ladder until there's this profound sense of stillness and peace. Um, and all the illusions of self, the differences, the comparisons, because I was hyper competitive, hyper ambitious. And what does that mean? Comparison. You're edging towards what you believe is greatness. And so that just disappeared, you know. Um,
Well,
there's no
I
more
could
need to
identify.
compete, to be better than, to prove nothing. All of it's gone. And so with it goes the fear as well, because fear of failure is now gone. And so illusions without distinctions, illusions without distraction, illusions without comparisons. And as the comparison goes, the judgment, and this is the beauty of time. You're on this loop. Choose again, choose again, choose again, Holy Son. And with each one, it's just lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. I'll give you a little story. So I've been an avid collector of motorcycles. And I really have a bucket list of boyhood dreams, and the motorcycles that you fancied as a kid, and then the later machines, the technological advancements. And whenever I had friends come over, I had my little motorcycle museum. My house is built around motorcycles, literally. And people would always go to the fancy red Italian machines because they're just super sexy. And then I've got some of the older British machines that just leak oil. And people would just be drawn to this, the beautiful Italians in red dresses, the most uncomfortable machines ever, unless you're wringing their ears and their necks at breakneck speeds. Anywhere else other than on a racetrack, the bikes are just as beautiful as they are to look at, and as amazingly as they handle, and as they get, the newer generations, the Panigales, they're phenomenal, but they're uncomfortable. And then you've got, the look at me Harley types, the motorcycles that make a noise and draw a lot of attention. And yet, the very core of all of it, I have an old Bonneville, old British Bonneville. And of my
Triumph.
entire collection, this old Bonneville, is just, look, every single machine has a different essence to it. It gives a different personality for a different circumstance. And some have got power. They've all got torque at varying levels, and the torque gives you that punch, and the speed top end, and each one a different personality. But what's amazing is my judgment was on what are what's their value, and how do they appreciate, and how now I'm down to only 6
Just
based
6.
on what I ride. And it's getting close to those 6 are going to become 2, and eventually just 1. I no longer need that.
You still got the
And yes, I've had a
Bonneville?
passion for it. It's been a joy of the experience, the essential nature of the experience, whatever the engineers had in mind, and they've all got a different personality, fractures of yourself reflected back at you, of course. But now it's about the simplicity, the joy of riding it. It's no longer about what are they valued and how many people look at you and go, wow. It's all gone. Now it's an expression. It's a way that I abide with the Lord God of my being. You put a helmet on, the world goes quiet, you're present. How did that change? I thought by now I would have had 100 of them. You know, letting go, letting go, letting go. There's no more attachment. And one of the greatest joys I have is when I have friends come over and come visit from other countries or other towns, and they come and ride with me. And hey, pick a bike, I'll set out, there's a set of leathers, there's the gloves, there's a helmet. Come and ride with me and enjoy these expressions. The whole meaning has changed. Size and shape and time and place, difference no longer matters. The expression, the sharing, that's it. When did that happen? When did that
Wow.
shift?
You still got the Bonneville?
Yeah.
You have. I thought you might have. When I was a kid, all my mates were into bikes. To get one of them had an old matchless combination, Norton Commandos, all
Oh,
that. But the Holy Grail was a Triumph Bonneville 650. Marlon Brando rode one in the Wild Ones in an American film, and he made that an
absolutely.
icon, that bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it would the Triumph Bonneville was the kiddie. Incidentally, what you said earlier about reading, I can identify with that. When I was introduced to the Course of Miracles, someone lent me their copy, and I started reading through it. I gave them it back and bought my own copy. And the same person said, "Well, tell you what, read Disappearance of the Universe first, because it's a great introduction to it." And that's what I did. I read Disappearance of the Universe, and it opened it up, sort of thing. Well, I understood it in a way when I first read it, but it made it easier. And I didn't read anything else again for years. And the only thing I've really read since then is like, I Am That. And for
Yeah.
anything to do with the Indian Masters, I read after finishing A Course in Miracles. I couldn't read a novel again. I couldn't read
Sure.
any novel, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. You know, I mean, I used to love novels at one time, but it's just what somebody's made up. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
enough stuff up myself, thank you, without listening to your makeups. You know, it's just it totally changed my outlook. You know,
Absolutely.
how can, once you know that everything's just in imagination, then why do I want to listen to read what somebody else imagines?
Hmm.
It's that's a very definite change to me. I can identify with what you said there completely. Actually, I read Disappearance of the Universe a couple of every now and again as well. I've read. Oh, that's a lie. I got all of the rest of Gary Renard's books. I've read them as well. Was it Love Has Forgotten No One, and I can't remember what the other ones are called, but I've read those as well, and they're good stuff. But aside
Yeah.
from them, I don't read anything anymore. You know.
Look, I still delve into the Tao Te Ching, and every now and again I open one of Ramana's books. And um, on Christmas Day, and I have done this since I was 11 years old, is I read the book Illusions, Richard Bach, and
What,
every
this
alternative.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull
Yeah,
guy?
every alternate. So on New Year's Day, I always read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. That's my New Year's Day book. And Christmas Day book is Illusions. And I've read that now for the last 50 years. So that's just something I've been doing since I was 9, 10, 11. And there's no more need anymore to read. I mean, like I say, I still read from the course every single day. I still do the exercises every day. And it's just a constant reminder. Why? Because I know, lead me not into temptation. That's it.
Mm.
Constant reminder. Thy will be done. And that is a total dedication. And, people say, oh, this course is so difficult and forgiveness is so difficult. What is more difficult than suffering the same nightmare over and over again
Yeah.
in different
Oh
shapes and
yeah.
sizes and smells and tastes? Same nightmare.
I still teach the course every day, and I've done for years. Even though on TikTok, I just repeat old videos, but I look at them again myself before I post them, and look at people's reaction to them and answer any questions they got about them. And I do that every day, and I've done that every day for the past 11 years. And I don't occasionally. The only time I've had off was when I was on the Gili Islands in Indonesia, when the whole island didn't have no internet service, so I couldn't post something every day. But that was the only time I've had a break. Another time I took a week off once when I thought I was due a break. I thought I was going to take a month off, but I lasted a week before I was back posting again. You know,
Interesting that you mentioned illusions, though, Lewis, because when I was preparing for today, reading earlier, and it came straight into my mind of order of difficulty, the perception of order of difficulties for miracles, and how the character Don sort of tells Matey to pick a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
with the intention of dissolving the cloud and making it disappear because
Yeah.
it's an illusion. And he's like, well, that one, that's massive, so okay, pick a
Order of
little,
difficulty in miracles. Yeah.
yeah, pick a little one.
Donald Shimoda, a Second World War Japanese barn flyer, barnstormer. Couldn't get more bizarre
I know, without a bug on his windscreen.
without a bug on his windscreen, and he could land in the shortest landing strip ever.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful read. And as I said to you guys before we started recording, that, principles of miracles. Number
Mm,
one, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They're all the same because all expressions of love are maximal.
Well, I suppose if you're trying, like, as far as miracles are concerned, if you're talking about healing the sick, I mean, curing somebody of a cold is considered a lot more difficult than curing somebody of leprosy, I suppose. But according to the book, like, you should see everything as. I mean, I think it's like it's not a case of this is only sort of like surmising. Like, it's not a case of making the leprosy or that go away. It's making them realise the person themselves realise that it's of no consequence. It's sort of like with Jesus. I mean, like, he was totally awake, and the people he cured realised he was totally awake and got onto his wavelength and realised that they can't be ill. They only appear to be. Same as he saw them. They just appeared to be. And the cured one realised he just appears to be. You know?
Also, want to pull up a little bit here from lead us not into temptation means recognize your errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance.
Mm.
So that pretty much backs up what you're just saying, Steve. It's like, and also I know that Lou mentioned the classic one people like to grab onto last week when someone will say, well, Ken Wapnick died of cancer.
mhm.
Ramana Maharshi died of, Nisargadatta had cancer. It's like what Steve's just saying through the stories of Jesus's life. It's just about core identification. It's like you're using the body's eyes to point something out in another body, and
Mm,
you're saying that that's the whole story. And it's like what you're being told is that the body's eyes report back the intention that you projected out.
exactly.
And guess what? They witness to whatever it is that you asked them to witness to.
And what you've just said there, Leon, is so important. So, the non-dual teacher, unawakened to self. Careful there, Lou. Um, Non-dual teacher then goes to the students as well. The reason you were attacked and beaten is because you were projecting hateful thoughts, you know? So the attack was just your own attack back on yourself. Oh, so does that mean that that's why Jesus was crucified? Because he was putting out attack thoughts, and the attack thoughts came back and crucified him. So we can't have that now. So now what we say, no, it was part of God's plan. God sacrificed his son. See where this delusion is. How do we figure this out? Where do we draw the line? That it's not my attack thoughts that are coming back at me. It's the attack thoughts of our shared dreaming mind, already scripted. I'm just a character playing the role. And in the script, this character seems to be attacked at such and such a stage, or
Mm,
crucified, or avoided, or denied, or betrayed.
mm,
But now, when you awaken to the Christ within, what's the prayer? Forgive me, Father, for imagining I dreamt this up.
mhm,
Jesus never said, forgive them, Father, for what they have done. He didn't also, someone in the course once said, Jesus said, forgive me, Father, for what they haven't done. He didn't say that. We're still straight back into duality. If Jesus said anything on the cross, first of all, who the hell was there to record it? Number two, in the non dual understanding, Christ's mind would have only said, thank you, Father, for showing me that this was but a dream. And forgive me, Father, for having believed that you could abandon me and that I could have believed I could be crucified. Forgive me, Father, for imagining this. That's it. And unto your spirit, I surrender my soul, my being. I let it go. I want to awaken into your reality. He's now really calling upon the memory of God. Does God know that Jesus was crucified? Absolutely not. Was Jesus a representation of God on this world? No. He was a pointing. And where was he pointing at? Must be the moon. Or maybe it was Uranus. No, it was at the self. I and my Father are one. And until we recognize this, apart from size and shape and time and place, for differences cannot exist within it. So to illusions without distractions. The Christ I am, not I, Lou. It's the I am in all of us. And that's, you know, the healed mind will put them all into one category. Unreal, the essence in which they all appear, the Christ. And I awaken to the essence I am, that which I share and extend with my Father. And what's the answer to sickness? Healing. And what is healing? It's the healing of the mind. What is healing of the mind? What needs to be healed in absolute reality? Nothing. So true healing is just the recognition of our shared self.
Beautiful.
And our shared self is love. We share that love with everything. That's the beauty. When did this happen? I don't know. Somewhere a grumpy git was born, got really angry, and then said, there must be another fucking way. Please
First,
show me.
first of all, he said there must be another Italian motorbike.
Another Italian sexy machine, yeah. Until he
Well,
fell on his head at 280 k's an hour, yeah.
using
And
the
then he
dream
saw the
analogy
light.
again, yeah, that mystic bike. The dream analogy again. If I dreamt last night I was witnessing the crucifying of somebody, and it all seemed real as they dreams do. Then I woke up and realised I just dreamt it. Everybody in the dream is me. They're all
Yeah.
creations of my mind. Even though when I was dreaming, I thought it was all real and going on. I created that, but it wasn't real. So us within the dreaming mind of God, we like the people that we've got no control over the people in our dreams. They've got free will, same as we have. We just observe them. So us within the mind of God have got free will to do all sorts of stuff, and he just observes. He can't stop
Yes.
it. He just asks us to get back in contact with him, and he'll let us know it's just not happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the same thing. The dream analogy is such a good way of putting it all across.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of people can't understand it really because they think, how can I be a dream? Like, I'm solid. Yeah, but to the people in your dream, they're solid.
They appear solid too, yeah. The
Yeah, they're
beauty is
solid.
we dream every single night of our lives.
Yeah.
We go to sleep, we wake up. The beauty is that the answer is given us daily. Our daily bread is given us. The answer is given us daily, you know, but we get led into temptations. And then we want to go into dream analysis. And what does it mean? No matter what you dream, it means nothing. Well, no matter what none of it means in the meaning. Don't look for meaning in a meaningless world. Look for reason. Look for function. What's your function? To forgive self, to forget the dream you made, to forgive the dream you made. And in essence, what you're also doing is you're forgiving God. Why? Well, you're not actually forgiving God because there's nothing to forgive, but it's the recognition you blame God. We have to admit we are in the mind that dreams is narcissistic. And therefore it has 8 billion projections of its own narcissism. And it needs to admit I'm narcissistic. There's, like people love to say, oh, he's a narcissist. No, there's 8 billion narcissists on this planet. I'm talking about it tomorrow night in my group talk. And we're all just varying layers of narcissism until we surrender the device and we are brought back through the forgiveness process to the recognition of our shared self. And there is, I mean, don't preach about Jesus. Be like Jesus. Your understanding, whatever your highest understanding of a brother is, be like that. Don't try and teach about Jesus. Don't try and understand. You won't. It's a story. rather try and emulate the love of God you are. And if there's anything you do, is pray like Jesus. And how did Jesus pray? Well, he taught us. It's called the Lord's Prayer, you know. Except I'm sure Jesus didn't want it to be called the Lord's Prayer. And I'm sure he just wanted to be called prayer. But we made it the Lord's Prayer. And that, if you really take that apart from a non-dual perspective, which I'm doing next week in my talk, is when you really understand that prayer, it's like taking the Ho'oponopono, wrapping it up in the Course in Miracles, condensing it into 12 short sentences, and puff feather silence. Donald Shimoda and all.
It is so.
There's the title for a new book, Puff Feather Silence.
Right, though, you said about the Lord's Prayer. Jesus never called it the Lord's Prayer.
No, of course not, yeah.
It's just like, how shall we pray? And he says you don't need to pray. All you need to do is recognize God. God knows what you need.
Yeah.
He just wants your recognition and just say this prayer. You know, the Lord's Prayer is just a title we've added to it, or the church has added to it, you know. I did read somewhere.
Recognizing God is being thyself knowingly. You know, because we've actually got to get rid of the idea of God as an entity, as a being, as a something outside, and just recognize the shared self. And once you know the shared self, recognize the shared self, your true self, absolute reality, there is no you and God. There's just awareness. Okay, these are layers. I know. Not everyone's going to be ready for that. Only us special, enlightened master teachers. But don't worry. If you send me your money, I will help you accelerate through the process, through the 9 steps that Ken taught. The 10th one is only for the really highly spiritually evolved ascended masters who were once incarnated as the disciples of Jesus. The rest, sorry, you've got to wait until the 144,000 reincarnate.
Wow.
Enjoying the stories?
That is good, mate. I'm thinking of this movie Inception that I really love, and
oh yes, my favorite.
Hopefully, lots of people have seen this movie. And
Leonardo DiCaprio, is it?
Yeah,
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's good.
They want to put a thought into somebody's mind, and they have a team of people who have been delegated different tasks based on their skill set to help enable this to play out. And one of the cast is a girl, and her job is to be the architect of the dreamscape. So when she's being shown through like a bit of a virtual reality kind of scenario, what she's going to be dealing with, and how she can't just make the roads curve up in the air and for people to walk on walls and in the sky. As she becomes adjusted to this environment she's in, she transmits fear of like, whoa, what's going on here? And then all of the other characters that are passing her by as she walks down the street in this big city, they all change and they start to come towards her in a way that looks like they're attacking her. And then that makes her more scared, and that makes them come at her even more. And the guy who's being her tutor through this has to say to her, well, they're not attacking you, they're responding to the energy that you're giving off. They're a reflection of the frame of mind that you are currently resting in. And to use that in the context of what we teach ourselves through studying the course is exactly the same thing. It's like in every given moment, if I want to know what frame of mind I'm currently within, then I just look at the world, and the world shows me whether I'm at peace, remembering love, or whether I'm in a state of fear. I seem to have forgotten the glue that bonds everything together.
Well, I can relate to that by having a very happy and content life, and I have had for some years now. The course is on my mind all the time. It's just about love, and I just conserve that inside myself. This love,
Mm.
any feeling of annoyance. I mean, you're going to get annoyed here about things, but just get rid of it straight away, as it says in the book. Love projects love, and if you want a happy life, love it. Really, getting angry with people and getting upset about stuff causes it to come back on you. It's
Mm.
it's such a simple thing. Just love.
Just love.
I
So
think the thing is with the word love, people think of attraction love, like between
Mm.
a man and a woman, but it's brotherly
No,
love.
that's
The love you
Eros.
have for your parents, the love you have for your kids, the love you have for life. That love.
Agape.
Yeah.
one of my favorite fruits. I do like an agape smoothie.
I don't know that word, agape. I don't know that word.
Agape, unconditional love. It's Latin and it's also Greek. Agape. Because in English language has got love, which means lust and attraction and everything else in one. Familial love, friendship love, love for objects. Whereas in Latin and in Greek, um, agape is undefined love, unconditional, undefined love as awareness, I guess.
I remember that. No, I hadn't come across it. That's cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's a goldfish, and then there's a guppy.
Yeah.
Oh, guppy. Yeah, I should have guppies years ago.
Not
Do
very
love a
broad.
guppy.
So I've got us a bit of Nisargadatta today from section 92.
Mm.
Go beyond the I am the body idea, which strangely sounds quite familiar to A Course in Miracles. I can't imagine why we reference this book when we have our talks. Maybe there's something universal to this non-duality business after all.
Certainly hints at it.
Yeah. So Nisargadatta is asked, is understanding enough? Don't I need more tangible proofs? It's your understanding that will decide about the validity of proofs. But what more tangible proof do you need than your own existence? Wherever you go, you find yourself. However far you reach out in time, you are there. Obviously, I'm not all pervading and eternal. I'm only here and now. Good enough? The here is everywhere, and the now always. God, beyond I am the body idea, and you will find that space and time are in you, and not you in space and time. Once you've understood this, the main obstacle to realization is removed. What is the realization which is beyond understanding? Imagine a dense forest full of tigers and you in a strong steel cage. Knowing that you are well protected by the cage, you watch the tigers fearlessly. Next, you find the tigers in the cage and yourself roaming about in the jungle. Last, the cage disappears and you ride the tigers. I attended one of the group meditation sessions held recently in Bombay and witnessed the frenzy and self-abandon of the participants. Why do people go for such things? These are all inventions of a restless mind, pampering to people in search of sensations. Some of them help the unconscious to disgorge suppressed memories and longings, and to that extent, they provide relief. But ultimately, they leave the practitioner where he was, or worse. I've read recently a book by a yogi on his experiences in meditation. It's full of visions and sounds, colors and melodies, quite a display and a most gorgeous entertainment. In the end, they all faded out, and only the feeling of utter fearlessness remained. No wonder a man who passed through all these experiences unscathed need not be afraid of anything. Yet I was wondering, of what use is such a book to me? Of no use, probably, since it does not attract you. Others may be impressed. People differ, but all are faced with the fact of their own existence. I am is the ultimate fact. Who am I is the ultimate question to which everybody must find an answer. The same answer, the same in essence, varied in expression. Each seeker accepts or invents a method which suits him, applies it to himself with some earnestness and effort, obtains results according to his temperament and expectations, casts them into the mold of words, builds them into a system, establishes a tradition, and begins to admit others into his school of yoga. It's all built on memory and imagination. No such school is valueless nor indispensable. In each one can progress up to the point when all desire for progress must be abandoned to make further progress possible. Then all schools are given up, all effort ceases. In solitude and darkness, the last step is made, which ends ignorance and fear forever. The true teacher, however, will not imprison his disciple in a prescribed set of ideas, feelings, and actions. On the contrary, he will show him patiently the need to be free from all ideas and set patterns of behavior, to be vigilant and earnest and go with life wherever it takes him, not to enjoy or suffer, but to understand and learn. Under the right teacher, the disciple learns to learn, not to remember and obey. Satsang, the company of the noble, does not mold, it liberates. Be aware of all that makes you dependent. Most of the so-called surrenders to the guru end in disappointment, if not in tragedy. Fortunately, an earnest seeker will disentangle himself in time, the wiser for the experience. Surely self-surrender has its value. Self-surrender is the surrender of all self-concern. It cannot be done. It happens when you realize your true nature. Verbal self-surrender, even when accompanied by feeling, is of little value and breaks down under stress. At the best, it shows an aspiration, not an actual fact. In the Rig Veda, there is mention of the Adi Yoga, the primordial yoga consisting of the marriage of prana with prana, which, as I understand, means the bringing together of wisdom and life. Would you say it means also the union of dharma and karma, righteousness and action? Yes, provided the righteousness you mean harmony with one's true nature, and by action, only unselfish and desireless action. In Adi Yoga, life itself is the guru and the mind, the disciple. The mind attends to life, it does not dictate. Life flows naturally and effortlessly, and the mind removes the obstacles to its even flow.
Beautiful.
It is, that's beautiful. I noticed in that reading he refers to the I am. Throughout that work, he keeps going back to you just have to realize I am. You don't need I am this, I am that. I am. I am.
Full stop.
Full stop. I am.
Nothing to be conscious of. If you're I am, then there's nothing to be conscious just of. It's a recognition of awareness.
Am.
Yeah. Yeah, the I am is the recognition I am is even more powerful than saying God is. Because in the I am, God is.
I
God
am
is.
as
I
God
am.
is. I
No,
am as God is, actually,
sure.
isn't it? We
Mhm.
are as God is. I
Well, where
am.
I'm going with this is even lighter. I'm saying God is in the I am. So by saying I am, you don't even need to anymore. There's not even a full stop. There's just I am. And there's no visual, there's no mental, it's not even an expression. It's a collapsing of all of it.
Mm,
It's just an
I am.
eternal present moment. Here now, forever. It's just done. I am. And it is the highest recognition. And at, and this is for everyone, all of us included. Your peace, your greatest and final disappointment will be that even guru, teacher, cannot take you to the I am. You've got to abandon, you've got to let go. The teacher will disappoint you, no matter how great the teacher is. And why will it be? Because the teacher is a misperception, it's a projected out. The true teacher is the I am. And so letting go of your so called guru teacher will be your final act of disappointment in self. And and from there the light of awareness comes. Who is Jesus's teacher? How come he doesn't get a mention? Because his teacher was the I am. God is the I am.
I don't think it could get more simple than that, really. I don't think you could simplify it any more than that.
Well, just I guess
I am
being
as
quiet is the
God is, I
simplest.
am.
You know, the only simpler form is being completely quiet,
And
smiling and nodding.
I am being like a reflection of just pure being,
Yeah, that's it.
actually being, just purely being.
Hmm.
Well, the course says, I am spirit. It's one of its lessons. I am spirit, which is practically the same thing, really.
Definitely.
I am. You don't even need to say spirit, really. It's just I am.
Hmm.
I am. I mean, the phrase I am itself just mean God. As Lewis said, I am is God, isn't it?
Yes, I am is God. Yeah.
I am is God.
Hmm.
And the whole understanding to refrain from taking the definition further for the, you could call it a temptation, if you like, to add to that,
Hmm.
is a reflection of the fact that you have been through the process of adding all of those things to the point where you realize that you then need to take them all away. I am this, I am that, I am it, as part of the process. And then when you've followed that through, then it's to remove all of those things all the way back to just I am, because that's the reflection of just pure being.
Yeah, it's a refinement.
Mm.
At first, there was the Word, and the Word is God.
Mm,
It's not a spoken word.
mm,
The translation used the word, but first there was logos, and logos is not a it's not a spoken word. Logos is pure awareness, pure undifferentiated awareness.
mm.
First there was awareness, and awareness is God. Full stop. Put the book away. Go straight back there. But we've got to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's like we need to read the book so that we realize that we've got to put the book away.
Yeah.
What was in the book? Well, by the time I finished that great big thick book, it said,
I
throw the book
can't
away.
remember. There's nothing to remember. There's only everything to be.
And I'm also reminded of the little story that I told Lou recently, Steve, about a funny little thing where there's a master at a monastery, I imagine it's a Zen master, and a student comes to his monastery seeking him out. And he says to him, "How long have you been a student?" And he goes, "Oh, just like a few years." And the master says to him, "Oh," he goes, "Well, have a cup of tea." And then a few days later, another student comes seeking out the master. And the master says, "How long have you been on the path studying?" He goes, "Oh, 20 years." And he said, "Oh, right." He goes, "Have a cup of tea." And during both of these events, there'd been one of the monks who'd been at the monastery for decades. And he was a little bit, he's a bit annoyed, really. He goes up to the master and he goes, "How come that guy who'd only been studying for a little while, and then the guy who'd been studying for a long time," he said, "you just offered them both a cup of tea." And the master turned to the monk and he said, "Have a cup of tea."
Beautiful.
Have a cup of tea.
Unless
No
he's
differences.
like,
Don't mention him being South African and not liking tea.
unless he's
'Cause that
Luigi Poo
spoils
from
the-
South Africa, who absolutely hates tea, and he gave you tea to get rid of you.
But the master
quite
said,
like-
"Sit down and have a cup of coffee." Is
I
it the
like
South
rooibos
African
tea, funny
version?
enough. South African rooibos tea, I'm quite fond of that as it goes. I'll
That's
sit
not
down and
tea.
have a cup of that.
That's not tea. That's coffee with a
It's
disguise.
just rooibos. It just means red bush, doesn't it?
Red bush
It's just
tea. It's just a bush. Anyway,
have
most
a
of
cup
the
of
red bush tea now comes from China.
tea.
Go figure.
Well, it started out there, didn't it? It come from China originally, as I understand it. Mm.
Red bush tea is from the Cape. It's indigenous to the Cape. Gentlemen,
Okay.
this has been real. It's now time for Eat, Pray, Love.
Have a cup of tea. Or coffee. Until next time.
Cheers.
Thank you. Be well.
Blessed.
And you, lovely. Namaste.
No more stay.
Namaste. See you next time. That was great. I loved that. See you, brothers.
Cheers.
Be
I'll see you
well.
next time.